Hey there, it's Dr. Karen, and I wanted to talk to you today about a topic that comes up a lot among the SLPs that I mentor or just the readers on my mailing list, and that is advocacy for our profession. So when I am working with SLPs, because I do help a lot of SLPs to create systems and protocols and just rework their language therapy. And as I have been teaching SLPs specific things that they can do in therapy, because you can make a big impact with your therapy, right? So a lot of times as SLPs are learning what they should actually be doing in their sessions, they find that once they solve that issue of knowing what to do in therapy, whether it be language therapy or whether it be some of the other things we treat, they realize that there are some other roadblocks that come up that they need to address when it comes to being able to serve their caseload. And that is just simply being able to advocate for us as SLPs and what we do so that we can have access to the time, the resources, and the ability to provide services in the way that we know is best for our clients. So essentially advocating for our clients as well. So let me just share a couple things that have come up specifically, and I can think of a number of different examples. And this is why a lot of people don't realize this, but there is a big push for evidence-based practices in our field as far as knowing the research, knowing what you should do in your therapy. Totally agree with that. Obviously, I am all about that, and that's what I teach people to do when it comes to language therapy. Obviously, we want to be in line with the research, but simply knowing the research and knowing what it says and knowing what that means as far as what you need to do in therapy, just knowing that is not enough, unfortunately, for us as SLPs to be effective, because as you probably know, you might know a lot about the research, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the autonomy that you need in order to deliver services in a way that is in line with that research, because you have administrators, you have coworkers, and all of these other constraints placed on you in your facility, wherever you may work, that sometimes get in the way of being able to deliver services in a way that you know is best for your clients. So that's why, unfortunately, just knowing what to do in therapy, while that's super important, is not enough in order for us to be effective in our own practices, with our own caseloads, and also just in the field as a whole. So what do we do about that? Well, a lot of people right now are involved in different advocacy and lobbying efforts when it comes to communicating with organizations like ASHA. Is that important? Should we be doing that? Of course. Should ASHA be providing more support for SLPs? But yes, they should. But is that going to make a difference in your caseload next week, or even right now, or even maybe even next year? That's not necessarily going to impact those clients that you're serving now, is what I'm saying. So I mean, the long and the short of it is that big advocacy efforts like that involve organizations like ASHA, they take so much time. So unfortunately, when you're thinking about the clients that are right in front of you, or even the caseload that you're going to have in the next couple of years, well, all of those efforts that we are making at the policy level, just way up high, with ASHA and the leadership, unfortunately, that's going to take a long time to actually impact people like us who are in the trenches. And those clients that you have right now, well, they need you right now, and they need you to be able to provide services that are effective. And instead of waiting years for ASHA to catch up and reform, and not just ASHA. Obviously, there are other state and local organizations that need to step up as well. And we should be taking steps to make changes at those levels. But the thing is that we need to right now know what we're going to be doing with our clients that are currently on our caseload. And so that is why, and I realized initially when I was an SLP in the school systems, I realized that, once I got my feet wet and I felt like I finally had a handle on what I was doing in therapy, I realized that simply knowing what to do in therapy wasn't going to be enough for me to serve my caseload. So that is part of the reason why when I was doing my doctoral work, specializing in language therapy, I also decided to get my credential to get my director of special education credential to be able to be a special ed director. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because I really wanted to understand the leadership angle of how to actually make change in a facility. Now, even though I didn't have an administrative role at the time, what I started doing was just taking on these little projects in my own practice. So I was an SLP in the school systems, again, and I was also working on my doctorate. And what I started to do was come up with these little mini initiatives that I thought would be creative ways to serve my caseload. So every year, at the beginning of the year, I decided that I would have a new couple initiatives that I would do every year that I would try to get moved forward just in my facility. And my purpose of that was, number one, I want to be able to serve my caseload at the highest level right now without burning myself out. And also, I want to create a model, because if I am able to implement this effectively, I could share this with the other SLPs in my co-op, for example, the other SLPs that are working in the same special education cooperative in all the surrounding districts. I could provide a model for them. I could share it with them. We could all implement this, and then we could share it at the state level. It could expand from there. A lot of these changes that happen in the field, while we do need to make an effort to make an impact from the top down, a lot of times big changes happen from these kind of grassroots efforts that start at the local level. One example that I like to give a lot is that an SLP named Lorraine Maida was one of the people who started to create that 3-to-1 model of flexible service delivery. And she piloted it, and then a lot of other SLPs were able to create this service delivery model in their districts and be able to have a more flexible way of serving their clients and be able to do more consultation and collaboration outside of just direct therapy. And what they found is that it actually resulted in better outcomes. So a lot of times these efforts, when you start with just one SLP, that is where some of these things get started that makes changes higher up. So yes, should places like or should organizations like ASHA be advocating for us? Yes, but also we can make a difference at the building level, at our local level, and then that can expand beyond there. So the change needs to happen both ways. So I realized that early on when I was in the school systems, and like I said, that is why I started to create time for some of those little initiatives that I would use in order to do little experiments in the way that I serve my caseload. And over the next couple of days, I am going to create a couple videos about this. In my next post, I will be sharing some specific examples of things that I did and how I did it. But I know a lot of times at this point, the biggest objection that SLPs have to doing this kind of thing, I think that when I say, wouldn't it be nice to have more flexibility in serving your caseload? Or wouldn't it be nice to have more time, or, use a workload model instead of a caseload model? All of those things. I think that a lot of people are in agreement that those are important, that those are issues that come up for SLPs. But the reason that a lot of times people don't do anything about it is simply because of overwhelm. And it can feel like when you are just one person, everybody there's a little bit of bystander effect going on where people think, well, I can't really make a difference. It's just me. And then the other thing that comes up is that a lot of times people think to themselves, well, I am so overwhelmed with all of the stuff that I have to do. I'm so burnt out. How am I ever going to make time for these extra little projects, to find time to collaborate with teachers, to find time to do some type of experiment and leadership initiative beyond what I'm already doing, especially if you're not officially in a leadership role. And what I'm here to share with you is that you do not have to officially be an administrator or in a leadership position. Again, officially, you don't have to be in an official position in order to make a change and be a leader. In fact, a lot of the people that stand up and end up being leaders in their facilities aren't in leadership positions, and they just, they don't wait for somebody to give them that role. They just decide that they're going to do it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is with the time and the overwhelm is that there is actually a way that you can kind of flip-flop the way that you spend your time. A lot of SLPs come to me and they're really focused on some of the minutia and the lesson planning and the materials and all of those things, which, yes, we need to know how to do those things. You should get your get a handle on those things when you first start practicing. But once you narrow it down to a couple key protocols that work, you can actually kind of flip-flop your time. Whereas when you're first starting to practice, you're focusing a lot on the lesson planning and learning the specific protocols. But once you get very proficient in those protocols, what you can do is kind of flip-flop your time. So instead of spending any extra time that you have to plan your therapy, you are spending that time doing some of those other leadership activities and creating some initiatives that are going to make change at your facility instead of just kind of drowning in materials and planning. So once you do that, it's possible to kind of flip-flop the way that you spend your time. And I'm actually going to outline a process that I used to do this at my facility when I was first practicing. So I wanted to just share that. Again, I wanted to just address some of those misconceptions that, number one, that ASHA is the one that's supposed to fix all of these things. They're not, and they're never going to. And yes, they should be better, and I hope they will be better, and we should advocate on that end, but we can't expect all of the changes to come from the top. We can take some ownership for that, and we can actually, in many cases, probably make an even bigger impact than those top-down changes. So that's the first thing that I want you to take away from this. The second thing is that you do not have to be in an official leadership role in order to be a leader in your facility and make those changes that are going to have a huge impact on your caseload and also your well-being as an SLP. And then number three is that even if you feel overwhelmed, like how am I ever going to have time to think about those types of things above and beyond, you actually can, because there is a way that you can flip-flop the way that you spend your time, and so that you are actually planning for leadership and planning for just big picture service delivery rather than just those simple day-to-day things and minutia, like, what game am I going to plan for therapy? So we can actually think bigger. There's a way to do it. And I am going to share the process that I used to do that in some upcoming videos. So for now, if you want to learn a little bit more about how this process works, I actually outline this whole productivity system and method of planning that allows you to be extremely effective in your therapy sessions, but then at the same time, make time for focusing on advocacy and leadership. I actually show SLPs how to do this in my online membership for SLPs called SLP Learning Academy. In this program, I have a number of different things that are going to help you to be a leader so that you can advocate for your students and our field as a whole, create changes in your facility so that you have more autonomy about how you serve your caseload, whether you are in an official leadership role or not. I will show you how to do that. I will also show you how to collaborate and be persuasive with the people that you're working with so that they actually buy into some of those things that you're suggesting, so that you can start to make some changes in the protocols in your facility, and you can start some of those initiatives and really start to have an impact on the way things are done in the facility that you work in. And I also share some additional tools and protocols that you can use to figure out how to make time for all of these things, so that you can look forward to work because you know that you're making a big impact, you know that you're respected by your coworkers, and you know that you are having an impact on your clients with your work. So I show SLPs how to do that in SLP Learning Academy. I will share a link below this video so you can check it out if you want to learn more. In addition to those trainings that outline how to do all of those things, there are some additional time-saving resources in there so that you can learn how to be really efficient with your planning, so that you can make time to think about all of those important things that we need to be doing as SLPs to make changes in the field. So check it out below, and I will share in the next video, I'm going to share some specific examples of some things that I was able to do once I made time for it. And I'm also going to share how exactly I made time to think about things above and beyond just the day-to-day therapy planning. So check it out. Check out SLP Learning Academy. I'll link below, and you can check out the program, and then you can check out the next video to learn more about how I did it.